Hi there, and welcome to another one of my Bible lessons. This is number 19, and I thank you for tuning in. I'm doing this one because a lot of people did want me to do part 2 of the Christian Survival Kit, and I apologize I haven't got around to it. Just God's given me other topics to talk about, so hope you forgive me for that. And here's part 2 of the Christian Survival. And part 1 I spoke about let not your heart be troubled, and that's the first thing you need to do when you get into a crisis situation, and how you respond when you first get into it determines the outcome of that situation. I also used a story from my past when I was in a club called the Voyageurs. Some of you might have outdoor clubs. This one was we did bike trips and canoe trips when I was in school, and the teacher said something that I always remembered. He says, if you're lost, the moment you get afraid, you've already lost the battle. Now, he was talking about getting lost at that time, but I used it to all terms of life, and I'm thankful that I did, because and it was about 2006 or 2007. In my city, we had a huge storm. I was at work at that time, and my house was just down the street. And there was huge fog. Like, I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me. And I knew I just had to walk straight home, but I just couldn't see. But then those words came back to me. It's like, the moment you get lost, you've lost the battle. So I just, stood there and just collected my bearings, and then I was fine. So that was what I talked about in part 1. So here's part 2, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as you liked part 1. When you're in a crisis situation and Satan throws all he has at you, the very first thing you do is grab hold of your emotions. You do that by believing God instead of all the negative things. Then you have to put them into perspective. So, for those who watched, I used John 14, verse 1 was, let not your heart be troubled. John 14, 15, and 16 were written right before Jesus went to the cross, and it was actually the conversation at the Last Supper. So it was a really hard time for the disciples. And that's why he says, let not your heart be troubled. So John 14, verse 2 and 3 says, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. If I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. So he is saying, don't panic. Believe, and then he says, I'm going to go prepare a place for you, and I'll come back and receive you. He started to talk about heaven and eternity, and to put everything into perspective from the human standpoint, and all you do is look at the human point of view. When a person dies, that's the end. Christians should never have that point of view. So if you die, and you go to be with Jesus, which is actually great. When we get in a crisis, it's like Satan puts blinders on us. And blinders are kind of like if you have a horse, those things that you look like that. And we get so focused on the problem that you forget all the other things that God has done for you. You lose your perspective and changes your whole outlook. Satan tries to get you focused on one thing that's wrong. That's what he did with Adam and Eve. Your memory is one of the greatest weapons God has ever given you. Memory is a way of stirring yourself up. Sorry. We need to remember the good things of God because it's our nature to forget and focus on the negative. If you have total negativity and nothing good is going right, close your eyes and think of heaven. That's what he was trying to get across in John 14, verse 2. Because in John 14:1, he says, "Let not your heart be troubled," which is talking about don't panic. And then he goes into talking about heaven. So he was just trying to have them have the mental picture of heaven. So in Romans 8:18 says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." In history, there have been tragic things happened, and we wonder why. We see these events from this side, the human side. No suffering can compare to the glory in heaven. We have mansions waiting for us. Jesus spoke about heaven right after he said to them, "Let not your heart be troubled." He was saying, guys, it's not that bad. I'm going to be with my Father now. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17 says, "For our light affliction, which is but a moment, is working for us more exceeding an eternal weight of glory." Now, Paul wrote this, and Paul suffered more pain and punishment than any of us could ever imagine. Yet he says it's light affliction. So how can we say our problems are big when they can't even compare to what Paul went through? And I think it's 2 Corinthians 11, which actually speaks about all his afflictions. If you guys are curious what they are, like he was like stoned, put in prison, he was shipwrecked, he was left for dead, and stuff like that. I'm not gonna get into it. You guys can look on your own. I believe it's either 1 Corinthians 11 or 2 Corinthians 11. We place value on everything in life. Some people make a mountain out of a molehill. So what I mean is like, there's something like small that happened. You make a big issue of it when it's not really a big issue. Like, and I'll use the weather for example. Like here in my city, it's been snowing. I don't know. Sometimes it still snows, and I know it's almost end of April. Some people just complain about it. Like to me, it's just not a big deal. Like it's snowing, but snow is snow. Like, and I posted a Bible verse from Job. It says, "Have you seen the treasury of snow?" Like God sees it as a beautiful thing. Like my theory is, if life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. Like, it's just not that bad, What this means is you put so much value on something that it really isn't important. We have our favorite shows we have to watch, our sports teams. We have our cars, boats, but it doesn't match. But does it match with eternity? I get mad if you miss a show or a game. Last time I checked, there's more than one episode in a season, and football has 16 games. How do we make it light affliction? Well, what are you focused on? Are you focused on the situation or what God said? Anything you can subject, anything you can is subject to, anything you focus on can be subject to change. But the spiritual things we can't see are eternal. And that is my lesson, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And I really do hope you guys don't make mountains out of just small, mindless situations. Like, there's really no need. And just, focus on harnessing your emotions. And God bless.